Hi everyone, this is Dr. Avani Ratan and I'm your faculty at Conceptual Psych. And today we will be evaluating and responding to the social world together. So I welcome you to one of the most fascinating areas of social psychology. Here in this unit, we will explore how we form opinions about everything around us and how these attitudes shape our behavior. So think of attitudes as your personal evaluation system. They help you to quickly decide whether you like or dislike something, either from your morning coffee to the political candidates. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever pretended to like someone's cooking just to avoid hurting their feelings? So congratulations then. You have just witnessed your attitude and behavior going to war. So this lecture is all about that tension and how the advertisers, the politicians, and even your best friends, they use it to shape you. Now, attitude is a learned disposition to respond in a consistently favorable or unfavorable manner with respect to a given object. So the essence of attitude was a person's intensity of feeling towards some object. So some psychologists, they tried to explain attitude in terms of two dimensions, namely affective and cognitive components. So here, attitude has two dimensions. One was the affective and the other is the cognitive component. Now, the cognitive component here, it refers to a person's opinions and beliefs towards some object or event. So, this is a person's belief towards the opinion regarding some object or event. So, for an example, a person's beliefs and opinions regarding maybe just say widow remarriage. So, the affective component would mean how strongly a person feels for the event or the object in question. So, how strongly does a person feel regarding the either the object or the event in question? So, this feeling, it may be for or it may be against the event or the person. So, some were of the view that attitude has three dimensions. We just discussed two, affective, cognitive, but the third dimension of attitude is behavioral. So, now this approach is known as the ABC of attitude. So the behavioral component, it indicates action that a person would take in favor or against the event or the object of attitude. So here, either the action is taken in favor or against the event or the object. All right. Now, there are also three components of attitude which have their own characteristics. So, what are the components of attitude? There are three that we are looking at. First is valence. Now, valence, it refers to the degree of the favorableness or unfavorableness to the object or the event in question. So, here we are looking at the degree of how favorable it is or the unfavorable degree for towards the object or the event in question. That is the first point, first component. The second is multiplexity. So here, the second component of attitude is multiplexity. So higher the number of elements in a component, the more complex it would be, right? So higher the number of elements, the more complex it becomes. And the third component is consistency. So here it is found more among the valence factors than among the multiplexity, right? So how consistent it is. Now, let us go through the learning objectives for this lecture quickly. So by the end of this lecture, you would be able to understand how attitudes are formed through different learning processes. Okay. You would be able to explain when and why attitudes influence behavior. You would also be able to describe how attitudes guide our actions, and we would be able to together identify the factors that make persuasion effective. We'll recognize the methods for resisting persuasion attempts, and we would also understand the cognitive dissonance and its effects on attitude change. Now, let us start with the climate change example. So, let's start with something which is a compelling real world example as well. So, despite 98% of climate scientists agreeing that human caused climate change is happening, only 50% of the US population believes this. Why do you think there is such a gap? So here, your attitudes about climate change, they likely depend on maybe your age. So first factor would be the age. Probably younger people are more likely to believe. The second would be your education level. So here, college graduates are more likely to believe. Third would be maybe your political affiliation, right? Where do you feel that you are politically inclined towards? So probably, let's just say 71% Democrats versus 27% Republicans, because we are looking at the US population sample. Then your personal experience. So the coastal residents are more concerned, right? So here your personal experience becomes another factor. So here, this example, it perfectly illustrates that attitudes aren't just about facts. They're shaped by our own social groups, our own personal experiences, and psychological needs as well. Now, let us now come to attitude formation and understand how attitudes develop. Now, the very first thing, what are attitudes? So, attitudes are your evaluation of almost anything in the world. So, here you see your evaluation. So, it could be about people, it could be about objects, it could be about issues, it could be about ideas, and they could be positive, negative, or neutral. There are two types of attitude. One is explicit attitude, where you're conscious about it and it is reportable. You know that you like pizza, right? Then there are implicit attitudes. We cannot control them as much. They are less controllable. They are potentially unconscious. You might have, unconscious biases. So these are what you are reporting. These are conscious and these are potentially unconscious. So here, the implicit association test, IAT, this fascinating test, it measures your implicit attitudes by seeing how quickly you associate different concepts. So, as an example, it might reveal unconscious gender biases about career, about family roles. So, you might consciously believe in gender equality, but the IAT could show you more quickly that you associate with male and career and female with family, right? So, consciously, a person might be believing that they partake in gender equality, but they might be, subconsciously associating males with career and females with family. Now, moving on to theories of attitude organization. The first is Heider's Balance Theory. So, Heider's Balance Theory is also known as the POX model. It was given by Heider. It has 3 elements. The first is known as perceiver, which is P. So here, this is perceiver. Second is another person called O. So this is another person which we denote as O. And third is an object of perception, which is X. Now, the third one is object of perception denoted by X. So here, pairs, they are thus formed of these elements and they have 2 kinds of relationships, that is unit relations and affective relations. Okay, so one is unit relation, other is affective relation, right? So unit relation is between pairs of elements. So unit is between pairs of elements which depend on similarity, ownership and similar membership. Depending on similarity, ownership and similar membership. Second is, now when we talk about affective relation, they are based on liking and disliking. So these are likes and dislikes. Now, unit relations and affective relations may be positive or they may be negative. So Heider, he further stated that elements may be in a state of balance or imbalance. So either they are in a state of balance or imbalance. So when balanced, the individual feels relaxed and there is no tension. However, a state of imbalance between the elements creates tension and it motivates the individual to restore that balance. Now let us just understand this quickly through an example. Suppose Sunil, we'll denote him as P, likes Krishan. Krishan would be the object of perception and also likes Preeti. Preeti is another person. Oh, but Preeti is not liked by Krishan. So here the relations between Sunil and Krishan, Sunil and Preeti are positive, but relations between Krishan and Preeti are negative. So this state of affairs, it is disturbing for Sunil. So now Sunil has to change his relations either with Krishan or with Preeti. If he starts disliking Krishan, balance is restored, or he should start disliking Preeti to restore the balance. So that's how you would understand Heider's balance theory.